Welcome to the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes, showing you how to do wholesaling deals consistently without having to go on seller appointments. Learn the key tips and strategies that Brandon's students use to find deeply discounted properties that are pennies on the dollar, all while avoiding wear and tear on their vehicle, body, and freedom. Whether you're looking for your first deal or your next deal, it's time to send more offers with your host, Brandon Barnes.
Welcome, Sharon, to the show. I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks so much for having me, Brandon. I'm excited.
Yeah. When I saw in the notes that you specialize in probate investing, I really got excited because it's rare that, you run across somebody else that has that background. I definitely don't consider myself a probate master, but that was my niche early on. My very first year, it kind of saved my business. In that very first year of trying to do direct mail. I've loved probate deals ever since. I work with a lot of homeowners, but I'm sure that that's nothing to how many you've worked with over the years. So tell us a little bit about that, like how probate, started piquing your interest, why probate deals was kind of what you went after, and maybe a feel for how many folks you feel like you worked with over the years.
It was an odd way I came about it because I had another business. I actually had a home inspection business for 17 years. And about 7 years into that business, I started investing. I went to a RIA meeting, had no clue really what it was. And so I invested part-time until 2008 when I went full-time. And it was at that same time, which what happened in 2008, right, that I discovered probates. And there was no one working probates, Brandon. There was also no information on how to work probates. So it was just an accident that I found them. And that same year, I became an accidental wholesaler because if you know what happened in that time, retail buyers couldn't get a mortgage. And I had some properties that I intended to rehab. And I thought to myself, no, I'm not going to do that because it'll take this long. And then no telling how long they'll sit on the market. So that's when I just decided to wholesale the properties. And I really dove in and focused on probates. One of my strengths was always marketing because I was way before your time and we had to do direct mail. That was the way you marketed to realtors, or you showed up and you did networking events and things like that. Right. So I just transferred all of that over to probates. But what I've learned about probates early on is something for sure, is that you will never run out of leads and you will never run out of opportunities to help these people. And I think, I've helped so many people. And I would encourage investors to understand that you are helping these people. They have a legal matter, a legal obligation to close this estate, and it's something that you can be a valuable resource for. They're between a rock and a hard place, and they need us. Right.
Yeah. And don't be discouraged, right, by people that get offended or frustrated when you reach out. I've always tried to make sure that I've gotten like a testimonial video at the closing table or some reviews, and kind of can point to all the people that have profusely thanked me at the closing table for helping them out, because just to your point, they really oftentimes are in a situation where they have no clue what to do with this house, or, don't have the resources to put things together. Or maybe they do and they just don't want the headache or don't want to be too emotionally involved with the situation. So I highly agree with you. And, helping is the most important part. Problem solving is really how we get paid as investors. So tell me, kind of going back, because like you said, direct mail was the main way, wholesalers just generally did marketing, pre, I guess, 2015, 2016, I think when cold calling started to get big. Did you just go down to the courthouse and get your leads? Like, how was it that you got to kind of start charting a path towards focusing on probates early on? What was it that was kind of your big aha moment, and how did you get through that?
Well, I learned that, and this was, understand there is no resource to go and tell you where to get the leads. As you know, some places you can get them, they're online now. Some places you have to go to the courthouse. In my city, which I thought was really old school at the time, this is before they were widely available online, they were in the newspaper. And every month they printed the name and address of the deceased and the personal representative, which were the only 4 pieces of information that you needed. You know, had the property address. So, and the contact people. So every month I had on my big wall calendar, I would put a yellow marker and mark that date, because if you missed that newspaper, then you had to go downtown and hope that they had one down there.
Right.
But I didn't realize just how many counties, and back in 2008, in those early years, it was the majority of the counties. You had to go to the courthouse, which means it's not easily scalable. So we just had a process for direct mail. And for me personally, I'm a big proponent of that first contact always being direct mail, because people get upset when you call them.
I agree.
They often cry. You heard, it's just not a good thing to knock on their door or to call them. I know a lot of people are saying direct mail is really old school. Well, guess what, though? It really works with probates. It really works really well.
Right. And I think that it gives someone the option on whether they want to reach out to you or not. We've done a few different things. I did start originally with the letter myself, learning from, another guy out of Florida. He had a letter that I made my own, and it actually addressed the elephant in the room, if you will. So it, offered condolences in that initial letter. And I know some people say, hey, you shouldn't do that. Or I've also heard folks that say, hey, just send a regular direct mail piece and don't address the probate altogether. Where do you fall on that side? Because I want to get to the point where we're, giving some advice to some folks that are interested in doing some probate deals. Like, where do you fall in addressing the probate situation, offering condolences or not, or just sending a straight piece of direct mail to the probate records as soon as possible?
I feel very strongly that you should address the elephant in the room, because if you stop and think about it, my first letter, and I have in my course, I have a series of letters, and I call letter one is no condolences, one is condolences. But I tell people, if you send the no condolences letter, the first thing they're going to say to you, just a standard, letter without the condolences, and just pretending you don't know about the probate, I think you lose your advantage, because they're going to say to you, how did you get this information? And they're going to think you've gone around and done some crazy thing.
Right.
When you address the elephant in the room, in my letters, I'm saying basically, in letter one, we do the whole, get the elephant, right out in the middle of the room. Then we say, this is what I do, and this is how I can help you when you're ready. I'll be here when you're ready. So as the sequence of letters goes on, they change just a little bit in the front part of the letter. What one might say, hey, it's Brandon. I'm just following up on my previous mail piece to see how the estate's coming along. And again, you might not be to this stage right now, but I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk about selling the property. So what you're doing is you're sending a nurture series of letters, much like if you were nurturing someone through a physical phone call. You're nurturing them. You're putting no pressure on them. And understand that with direct mail marketing, about 81% of your deals, not your calls, your deals will come at or beyond your fifth mailing. However, 90% of your competition will stop mailing on or before the third mailing. Now, I've been doing probates since 2008. And what I know is that you'll get some deals right off the bat, but people generally don't respond right away. They've got to get to this place in their life and their mindset where they're actually ready to deal with selling the house. So if you don't just set it and forget it. People say, how long do I mail to them? Well, until you buy the house, someone else buys the house, or it's listed. So in general, I found that probates mostly are done with 12, 13, 14 months, somewhere in that vicinity. You're not going to be mailing to them forever. Now, there will be a few outliers that'll hang on, and that's okay. Keep them on your list. But you want to be the person that's there when all the other people have quit. There is value in being the last man standing, and there's really no getting to these people first. This is a process, both emotional and legal, that they have to go through. So there's not really any advantage into trying to go in the back door and contact them early because they can't sell the house, first of all. But to your point about them giving you testimonials, I say all the time, I've never gotten as many hugs at any type of closing as probate closing. They'll just, you probably know this, they'll come up and just throw their arms around you and say, thank you so much.
Very true. Very true. I love that. And, there are, of course, different ways that people want to, reach out and contact. But to your point, I also like direct mail. And I can kind of give this anecdote is, we had one deal that the lady sat on our letter for 1.5, almost 2 years and called us up, and it was a slam dunk deal. So by sending the mail out, you're getting in front of them versus, now people are sending text messages and calling, and it's kind of intrusive from my opinion. We have done some outreach, additional outreach outside on top of the direct mail in the past. But I know when it boils down to it, I've always felt like direct mail that offers his condolences, address the elephant in the room is best. So I agree with you there. It sounds like you're going very deep with these sellers. By, sending a series of mail over time. You suggest that someone just focuses on one county to do so, because I say that, because if you're actually going down there on a regular basis, either once a month, once a week, or every 2 weeks, you're collecting a bunch of records. And if you're mailing all of them and then having additional mailing points or a sequence, that racks up into, direct mail costs that can get kind of heavy. So what do you advise for some of your students, to go versus, going deep versus going wide and trying to contact, more people or less folks?
I think there are several things that come into play here. One is, how big is your geographic area? So I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and if we take the sub-counties, like the ones right adjacent that I work, we're hitting somewhere around 1 million, a little over 1 million population, not huge like Chicago or someplace like that.
Okay.
But the key is, when you get the leads in, we don't just arbitrarily mail everyone. So my daughter worked in the business, can be anybody that sits there, and real quick, we'd pull up the tax assessor site, and she would be going, now she's speaking it on my behalf, going, yes, oh, heck no. Yes, no, she won't go there. So we narrowed that list down to only the areas where we wanted the property or my buyers on my buyers list worked. So we narrowed that down, and that eliminated all of the really low end properties. I didn't work in those really hard areas, and the really expensive areas that were going to almost for sure be listed on the MLS. And this is a point to any agents listening out there or agent investors. If you're not working probates now, you are totally missing the boat, because a lot of these properties will be listed on the MLS. And that's something that I actually have in my course. I have agent letters and I have investor letters. It's the difference, just the difference. If you're making a letter and I want to buy your property or I'd like to list your property, same type of mail piece. But right now we've got this thing called the silver tsunami. That is for the baby boomers. They were born 1946 and 1964. That's millions of people are in that demographic. And about 2 million of those homes are going to hit the market every year for the next 15 to 20 years. That's extra inventory. So wrap your brain around that one, that these are going to be properties that are available. These are going to be even other opportunities for investors and agents when these people, people aren't just going into nursing homes at 65 now. They're buying another property, and maybe they're downsizing, maybe they're not. Maybe they're buying a more expensive house in a different location. But there is going to be a period of opportunity, basically the next 20 years, which you can Google it, silver tsunami. It's a thing. And it tells all about the baby boomers and the massive opportunity that's going to be here for in the real estate world. Totally.
For sure. Yeah. And I agree with that as well. That was kind of one of the things that also kind of attracted me to this method of marketing and investing. Is there's never a lack of inventory. It's only growing based on just the trajectory of the demographics and the population here in the U.S. And alternatively, when we talk about doing wholesale deals or investment deals, you're looking for someone that has a situation that's going on in their life where they have to make a decision. And this is amongst the top 3, right? So a probate, foreclosure, and eviction. The thing about probate that makes these leads so great is that instead of racing against the clock, to hurry up and get a deal done before foreclosure happens, you actually have a long time. And if you're consistent and you follow up, you really will win the deal. So I love it for that reason as well. Yeah. I was going to ask, just from your perspective, I guess, what are your main exit strategies? I know you mentioned that you've renovated some of these properties. Have you done any creative offers to some of these homeowners?
It's very difficult to do any creative financing with these folks because they generally have to liquidate the assets in the estate unless they're inherited. Now, there is an opportunity there is a list that can be purchased called inheritance. Those would be houses like that somebody that they didn't go through probate, but they were directly inherited, which puts you back in the same situation that they don't necessarily want the property. They may not, in fact, be able to afford to keep the property. So think about that. But I did want to circle back to one thing when we were talking about a list. So when you're building your list in your area, keep it tight. Keep it in areas that exit strategies. So I've done buy and hold. I've done fix and flip. I've done wholesaling. I think you always should know your exit strategy the day you buy the property. You need to know that because that will determine what you can pay for it. You can pay a different amount, maybe if you're going to hold the property than if you're going to do a fix and flip to a retail buyer. But keep your list tight. Keep it. Don't put everybody on your list. And to give you an idea, so I said we had a somewhere million-ish population here. Over the course of a year, I couldn't get my list much over 800 people. So tight list. You're not going to mail everybody. So you're going to look and see, is this something I want or the people, my top buyers on my buyers list? And I'm talking about the people that are real buyers. You're 5 or 6 people over here. So focus on those. Every month, some are coming off. Some have been sold. Every month, some are going on. Now, I want you to think about this because you're going to add, let's say you're going to add 60 or 70 this month, maybe 70 or 80 next month. You're not going to start out with 800 names. You're going to start out with a small amount and you're going to add those. I keep everything in months. That's how you mail your sequential letters by the month that they came up. So that when you're getting close to the year and you've got 800 names on your list, that's roughly $800 a month to mail a white computer-generated mail merged letter. How many deals do you think you've gotten in that year? If you've gotten 2 or 3, you've paid for your whole mailing for the whole year and then some. So think out a little bit bigger. You're not starting with 800 this month, but I would encourage you to get up there as fast as you can. Now, I tell my students, if you can, go back 3 to 6 months, pull those leads, because as you know, Brandon, those people, there's a real good chance they haven't sold, and all you have to do is pick them up. And then you're starting with maybe 300 or 400 names. So it gives you a bigger pool to work with, but keep a tight list. And the other tip that I would have with return mail is, has to do with return mail. Most people are throwing that in the garbage. Skip trace those people. All your competition is probably dumping those in the garbage, but open them up, take another look. Is this something that I want to take the time? And now a lot of programs you can skip trace within the CRM, so it doesn't actually cost you anything. But look in there and remail those people, update their address and remail those people, because you're going to be about the only person, one, maybe two people mailing those folks.
I love that. Yeah. You know what? I think that one thing that I'm taking away from this conversation is that even in our marketing efforts, because we're actively marketing to Probate Leads as we speak, that I could probably get my list down even tighter so that we can do more follow-up sequences. And I'll double back to one of the other questions I had about pre-probate and inheritance list. But I'm curious, how deep are you going with your follow-up? Like, I think you may have mentioned it, but do you have a timeline for every lead? Is it, once a month for so many months, or is it just so many cycles? Like, what does that look like for your kind of drip sequencing?
So it's once a month. I mail everybody every month, so long as the property is available. Now, what that means is that you've got to have somebody every 3 or 4 months go through your list and see if the property's available, see if it's sold. Some people will tell you, as you know, they'll call and say, I've listed it or I've sold it.
Right.
But you do have to clean up your list. But I don't ever stop mailing. Now, in my sequence of letters, I think there are 6 letters. Letter number 1 is only used once. That's the condolences letter. So by the time we're getting to the end of 4 or 5 months, we're scrubbing the list. And then when that last letter is done, we simply start over with letter 2. That's all the letters that you need. But you mentioned buying a lot of properties at 12 months. I've bought properties at 12 or 18 months. Not a lot, but when you get one of those sellers, they are super motivated. And if you stop to think about it, you're not spending $1 million per letter. So here's another example in a different niche. I was always mailed to out-of-state absentee owners, and I mailed to someone for 3 years before I got the deal. Wow. She went from, now think about postcard though, 40 cents then. So what is that? $5 a year, so $15 or something for 3 years. She had bought her brother, he was a judge in California. She had bought her brother a property because he fell on hard times. Well, the brother did what sometimes brothers do or sisters do that didn't put any money in the property. He just decided he didn't want it one day and he left. So then she decided to rent it. Now we're talking California to Louisville, Kentucky. It took the tenants about 7 months to completely destroy the house. But guess who got a call? I sent her a postcard, in this case, a postcard every month. So many of your deals, more than 80% of your deals will come from follow-up. And often after someone has said no, I always ask permission to keep them on the list just in case their plan A doesn't work out. I'd love to be your plan B. And they'll almost always say, sure. So you've asked permission. And then I'll say, if you sell the property, just give me a call and I won't annoy you anymore. Kind of make a joke of it with my mailing. They go, great.
Right. I love that. So you mentioned purchasing an inheritance list. Have you figured out a way to actually acquire from the county, a pre-probate or an inheritance list, or have you just used vendors for some of those other kind of smaller, more niche lists?
Well, just vendors for the inheritance list. I don't do any pre-probate stuff, and here's why. You can't buy the property until the estate has been opened and then you've got your decision maker is chosen. Either your executor's named or your administrator is named by the court. You can't make any, nobody can make a decision. They can't sell the property. So for me, I think the easier path is on the other end. And it's just, people will call from obituaries, which I am 100% against. I think that's a terrible idea. But if that's each person's decision. But the gold is after the estate is opened. I'll say that. That's where the gold is.
Love it. Have you added success with that inheritance list? Do you continue to
some? It's like any other thing, and you don't have to even. This is one time when I don't think you have to address the estate, that there's an estate. I think you could send a postcard, for under 50 cents, and just say, "Hey, I'm looking for property in your area." Just go that route. And that's what I do with surviving spouses. I do not mail people with surviving spouses because if they're elderly, they think you're coming for their property. They don't understand the process, but that is no less a valuable lead. I'd say, especially if it's a female spouse that's left behind, it's going to take her 6 months to a year to determine whether she wants to stay in the property, whether it's too much for her, whether she wants to move closer to her son, or all the things that they think about. So I put those people in a separate list, and I drop them in a postcard mailing to begin in about 6 or 8, 9 months. Depends on how the cycles are. That way you don't have to address the probate. It's just like they're being marketed to, like you're doing a neighborhood marketing campaign. Just simple postcard. I'm looking for property in your area. Didn't know if you had one you might be interested in selling. But it's a very non-hurtful way to go about getting a second shot at the property.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I think in the past we had actually removed anytime we saw the petitioner being of the same mailing address, right? As removing those folks. So yeah, that's a great reminder. This has been great, and a lot of great information. Aside from that, the one other thing I'm going to ask, and I'll give some folks just a piece of advice. Typically, just to kind of get started, I always tell folks you can call your local county courthouse and say, hey, if I have a probate that I want to petition for, where would I go? And then you go to that place. Hey, can I see, all the probates that were petitioned over the last week? And then go to that place, see if it's online, see if it's in person, and talk to a clerk and ask them, hey, how can I get all of this information for all the petitions that were filed over the last week? That's kind of how you get started and get down there to the actual data source. There was a point when I was going down to the courthouse every week, like clockwork, and made some really good friends down there. But when you're dialing in, as I think one of the biggest things that you mentioned is really being very narrowed and niched down in your search of probate records and what you pull. How deep are you going with that? Is it that you have like kind of an average buy box for your buyers, or are you literally looking and knowing like, hey, we only want these neighborhoods, these price points?
It's bigger than that. It's areas specific. It's types of houses. I prefer 3-bedroom homes. So if I'm doing any kind of a search, I'm looking at two or more, because a lot of times you can add another bedroom. But no, I'm looking at bread and butter homes or step-up homes. One step up. That's generally what I'm looking at. Also, for people out there looking to build a buyer's list, find out who is doing all the rehabs in your REIA meeting. Who's aggressively building a portfolio of homes. Those are your buyers. You only need a handful on your list, but find out where they buy. They have a buy box. They have a type. They have a number of bedrooms. They have a price they're willing to pay. Neighborhoods they'll go in, neighborhoods they won't go in. So if you get a property that doesn't fit your investing criteria, then you've got somebody you can literally call from the front porch. And to Brandon's point about getting the leads, in the past year, there have been major strides in where you can find leads online. Since I've been investing in probates, they were never available in Louisville, Kentucky online ever until now.
Yeah.
Florida,
same.
A lot of the counties are online. So Google your city and the plus sign and then probate filings. Google your county plus the plus sign and probate filings and see if they're online. I Googled it for a student and they were in Harris County, Texas. Guess what? All the information's online, free, no charge. So even if they're not, if you think they're not online in your area, check every month because it's exploding to where you simply can get them anywhere from 30 cents a lead down to free.
Love it. Great advice. And just to give folks a bit of encouragement, like what is you guys' average year? Like what are you shooting for, out of the 800 or so records that you're pulling? You're hoping to do how many deals? What's been good for you in a good average year?
Well, as I said, you start to build a runway with your direct mail. So along about the, fifth month or so, you're going to start getting more deals put together, the people you've been communicating with. But on a good year, direct mail, statistically, you're going to get about a 2% response. So 20 calls on 1,000. Of those 20, then you could expect to look at 3 or 4, maybe put 1 or 2 together. So my focus was never on quantity, it was on quality. So I would rather do less quality deals, less hassle, less of everything and more profit. But I would say if you could spend, let's say, for instance, you were mailing 800 people every month for a cost of $10,000 a year. And let's say you only got 1 deal a month and you made $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 on it. Is that a good scenario? Heck yeah.
Right.
What if you got really good at closing and we had a lot of months where we would get 2 out of that? It's all about statistics. If you could get 2 good deals a month out of probates, and you still were doing all your other things that you should have 3 to 5 lead channels in your business with direct mail and maybe probates being one of them. Maybe you do other direct mail niches. Maybe you cold call. You have more than one way to get deals. You should have 3 to 5. I would say, if you could get 2 a month out of there, that would be like a really good year. If you only get 1 a month out of that, you've still made a boatload of money.
Right.
Out of that. So some of it comes down to the skill of the closer.
Yeah. Love that.
There are a lot of, I like to say there's a magic number, but there really isn't. It comes about with your interaction with the seller. See, I firmly believe that it's all about the know, like, and trust factor. If you can go in, you can learn how to talk to these people, learn how to build rapport. And even if they don't take your deal, send them a thank you note, make a Bonjoro video and say, hey, John, thanks so much for showing me your property. I know we couldn't reach an agreement, but if somewhere down the line you want to reach out again, here's my phone number. I'd love to be your plan B. I always like to say that. I'd love to be your plan B. Because think about it for a minute, Brandon, if you made them a really low offer, they probably threw your business card in the mail the minute you walked out the door. So if you send them a thank you note, even when you didn't get the deal, do you think that sets you apart from the crowd? Heck yeah.
Right. I love that. Good stuff. Well, look, before I let you go, we have this section called Deal Diaries, and we want to break down and talk about an interesting deal, exciting deal, crazy situation. Do you have one that comes to mind?
Well, we talked a little bit before we started recording. I had one that was unforgettable where I met 2 young gentlemen at a property. My daughter happened to be with me, and we showed him the property. It was cold, and we walked outside, and he said, well, come on over here. I'm ready to buy the house now. And I said, well, we have to write a contract. He said, no, I've got the money in the car. And he literally had a suitcase full of money. The property was about $60,000. And I said, no, well, we can't do that. We have to close at an attorney's office. And he said, well, no, we can't close at an attorney's office. And I said, well, let me get back in my car and I'm going to go meet with my attorney. My sole thought at that time was just getting out of there. So I wasn't sure how they got $60,000 in a suitcase, but I was pretty sure I didn't want to know.
Yeah.
But that was the strangest deal I ever did.
Yeah. Did you end up closing that same house with another buyer?
Yes. One that actually knew how to come to a closing with a certified check.
Right. Love it. Good stuff. Cool. So look, before I let you go, I'm going to put you through a lightning round. Are you ready for that?
I'm ready.
Let's do it. Awesome. So I have a series of rapid fire questions. You don't know the question. I don't know your answer. So just say the very first thing that comes to your mind. What's one book that's been instrumental to your growth as a real estate investor?
A book that I love was written by Michalowicz. It's called Get Different, Marketing That Can't Be Ignored.
I like
I bet you weren't expecting that one.
No, as Mike Michalowicz, I usually hear Pumpkin Plan or
Profit First.
Profit First, right? Yeah, I will check that one out. I didn't hear about that one before. Love it. If you could have drinks or coffee with any one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, probably Mike Michalowicz. I read all of his books. Of course, there's always Oprah, but I'm sticking to real estate and marketing. It would be Mike, hands down.
Good stuff. Love it. What's your best advice for someone looking to do their very first probate deal?
I think get some kind of a deal under your belt so that you know the basics of, and you're a little bit comfortable with talking to sellers and you know how to write a contract and those sorts of things. And then just go into it understanding that they are just a regular person like you and me that happens to have this property as a result of a death. But at the end of the day, they still have to take care of the business of settling the estate. So just treat them like you would a neighbor or a friend, or just talk to them and see how you can solve their problem.
Love it. Good stuff. What's one mistake on a deal specifically or a business in general that if you had a do-over, you would take that do-over?
Well, it was my very first deal. My dad was a general contractor, so I dove right into rehabbed the property. It was a small bungalow house, really nice job. And since I'd been in the home inspection business, I knew a lot of realtors. A realtor bought me a buyer. He offered to pay full price. And then he hit me with, it's customary to pay all the closing costs and they won't buy any property where they won't agree to do that. So that ate a huge chunk of my profit. And to be fair, the realtor made more money than I did, and the buyer got back $8,000 at closing, and didn't make that mistake again.
Yeah, no, that's a good one. Makes sense. And kind of knowing the business and having that experience. I've definitely gotten some deals wholesale from under me, especially in the early days. What's the financial goal for your team, for your real estate investing team, for this calendar year?
Well, we're focusing in a different area right now. We are focused on helping other people grow their business while still testing the probate market and making sure that it's watching for changes. I'll say that, watching for changes, making sure that the direct mail is still working properly and those sorts of things. So for this year, we're kind of in a testing year, so to speak, with deals being incidental.
Awesome. So if you woke up tomorrow with $500 million deposited into your account overnight, what's the first thing that you would go out and purchase with that newfound money?
Oh, probably property.
More real estate. I love it. Last one. What's your best advice for someone looking to scale their real estate investing business right now?
I think we're real estate investors, myself included, we all tend to do this wrong. We hang on to everything too long. We fail all the jobs. We think nobody can do it as well as we can do it. And we fail to put systems in our business and processes. And that's really the secret sauce. When I think back to when I started, We had an old clunky ACT database, which was built for somebody like GE. Today, there are great CRMs that you've got tools. You're going to have to invest a little bit of money in those sorts of things. But I told somebody the other day, if you're spending $59 a month on your CRM, how many deals do you have to let fall through the cracks because you don't have one to make up for that money you'll pay for that? So be smart about how you spend your money, but get the systems, get the CRMs, outsource what you can so that you can work in your zone of genius, whatever that is. For some people, it's growing the business. For some people, it's negotiating the deals. Everybody's different. So do what you're good at and then find somebody to fill in the gaps.
Great. Awesome. I love that. Great. Well, Sharon, this has been awesome. I want you to share with folks how they can follow you or follow along with your journey, or a landing page that they can go and check out, your podcast as well as your coaching program.
You can find my website, the Louisville Gals Real Estate Blog.com, is kind of a hub. You can find everything there. You can link there. The podcasts are all there, but you can certainly find all the podcasts on Apple Podcasts. Let's Talk Real Estate Investing. But that is kind of a central hub. It's also, there's a link off to my course, Probate Investing Simplified, from there too. So you can, if you just want to look at the course, you can look at probateinvestingsimplified.com. But on the blog, there are links off to everything on there.
Awesome. And give me that name one more time.
Louisville Gals Real Estate Blog.
Got it. It will be in the show note. Yeah, it'll be in the show notes, guys.
If they have a question, they can email me.
Okay, awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And guys, while you're at it, head over to sendmoreoffers.com. There's nothing for sale there, just a bunch of great information, show notes. And you can even get in touch with me, especially if you're here in Atlanta. I would love to connect with you. Maybe we can do some deals. So head over to sendmoreoffers.com while you're at it. Everything will be in the show notes. I appreciate it, Sharon. This has been great. And I'm looking forward to follow along with your journey. And I even learned some really good stuff today that I'm going to take back to my team as well. So really, really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Brandon. It was fun.
Yeah, this is great. Well, guys, as always, send more offers, do more deals. Till next time, peace.
That's all for this episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show with Brandon Barnes. But we know you're craving more knowledge to get yourself ready for that next deal. To schedule a call with Brandon to learn more about how to do deals consistently without seller appointments in a repeatable way, be sure to visit us at sendmoreoffers.com. And be sure to tune in for the next episode of the Send More Offers Real Estate Show.